Hey everyone, welcome back. It is another episode. Another episode of what? We are finally doing our tag team list. That's right. Our tag team list is finally here. It's finally happened. Took us long enough. It was a week where we didn't have reviews. We were not inundated with so much wrestling this week. And, we want Putty to be part of the Survivor Series show. So that review will be up for you next week. Because here in TV land, let you in a little secret behind the stage, behind the camera, so to speak. We're recording this the night of Survivor Series. The Rhea Ripley Zoe Stark match just ended. No spoilers. With me once again, Campo.Reviews, movies, TV shows, wrestling, hockey. He has a hockey video out, I think, this week too. We have our upcoming Marvel tier list, what we're looking forward to for phase 5 and 6. So that video's out. Links will all be down in the description box below. So make sure you go and give those a follow. But before you do, make sure you throw a thumbs up on this channel. Give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a subscribe. Just sub to the channel. It doesn't hurt you, but it means the world to me. We're trying to grow this channel. We're trying to get to 500 subs. And, it's been a slow climb. It's been fluctuating up and down, +2, -1, and +2. But we're getting there slowly but surely. So if you tell your friends about our channel, and the more people who get to watch our wrestling content, the better it is for all of us, because we can make more videos like this for you. So without further ado, let us get right into it. Campo, you ready to reveal the top 10 list? Before we do, let us also mention the fact that my brother, Fab, didn't want to be a part of the recording, but he did throw in his list as well.
He's our go-to guy. This is nothing against them. Nick hasn't been watching enough wrestling recently and outside of WWE really to get him in on this, and the same thing with Putty.
Yeah.
Because the last list we did, we had all 5 of us. But this time we have
the top
3.
Canadian. Yeah.
And I think it's probably for the best, because I'm sure a lot of random WWE teams would have made this list had it been otherwise.
Let's get into some of the pretense for it. How many points? So we were asked to choose 10 teams from the last 5 years with, I think it was 2 honorable mentions, correct?
Yeah. So
how did the point system work?
First place is 11 points, and then it goes down by 1 point until the end, and the honorable mentions were worth 1 point and half a point. So we ended up with a list of generally the same things. There are 4 extra teams that got on somebody's list that didn't make the list, which we'll talk about at the end. But we came down, and I think the list is really good. Maybe I might not like the placement, but I think that's the point of what these lists are for, is so that
subjective. It gives us a talking point.
But I think having everyone's subjective opinion on it makes it more objective, because now it's like, well, it's a general rating of a group of people. It's got to be like in that range, right?
Yeah. So unlike all the other videos, we're going to give you the full top 10 list right off the bat. So without further ado, here it is. This is our top 10 list.
With honorable mentions.
Yes, with some honorable mentions.
There you go.
There we go.
We'll start at the bottom here.
Yeah.
We had a tie for the second honorable mention spot with ABC, which is Chris Bay and Ace Austin.
Yeah. I was the only one who voted. Let's actually, are the names? There we go.
I voted for them.
Yes.
Bishamon also made the list. JD was the only person that voted Bishamon. Actually, 4 points is like pretty decently high up.
Yeah.
I was not picking Bishamon, I can tell you that.
Yeah. We're the only ones that picked ABC, because Fab doesn't really watch Impact.
Yeah, but
in all fairness,
them being anywhere on this list, I think, is good.
Yeah. ABC, I think if Fab probably did watch Impact and saw how good this team was, they'd probably be a little higher.
Oh, for sure. They definitely would have knocked out Kevin and Sammy, who are our next honorable mention.
Yes. Which was Fab's pick.
Well, he had them very high up at a 5.
Yeah.
That's like 6th. That's like 5th or 6th on the sheet. So that's your honorable mentions out of the way. And now we'll go into the list proper. Take it away, Mike Walden.
Okay. Number 10 is Gorillas of Destiny. You were the one that voted him the highest. they were on my lowest honorable mention. They were also on Fab's honorable mention. Just barely beating out Kevin and Sammy.
Yeah, literally by your 0.5.
Yep.
But when I like, even if you, let's say, didn't want them there,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they beat out Kevin and Sammy and actually made the list, I think your 0.5 really helps, because I
Yes,
do think they definitely belong on the top 10,
I
in
think
my
so too.
opinion, over Kevin and Sammy.
And they're going to have a much stronger run if
Yeah.
they do end up winning the belts, which they're not even part of the World Tag League tournament right now.
But it's okay. They're the most winningest team of
New
in New
Japan.
Japan, and almost a majority of those wins came in the last 5 years.
Yes. So that is extremely fair. And what's funny is Tongaloa was an absolute jobber in WWE.
He was better in the Impact stable with Drew McIntyre and LA Knight.
Yes. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So we'll go into our number 9 spot, which is Aussie Open, a fairly new team, but a lot of us have Fab surprisingly voted them the highest.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And
If
they
we
did double
revisit
champion.
this, I was going to say, if we revisit this list in 5 years' time and we do it again of the next 5 years, I think Aussie Open might be a little higher.
I think the next list we might have to expand it out to 10 years
Mm-hmm.
to get in like a little bit more of those extra good stuffs. But I think, yeah, they double championed in New Japan. They were a top contender for a long time in New Japan.
Yeah.
And they also won the Ring of Honor titles as briefly as they had them, but
Yeah.
still. And they're going to
So
win AEW titles eventually.
eventually, yeah. I think that's where once FTR wins the belts back, eventually, I think that's where Aussie Open's going to take the belts back
That's fair.
and get that win back on FTR. So with that, number 8 is, I believe, New Day.
The New Day trio.
Mm-hmm. Our first of, I think it's only 2 factions on our list.
We allowed Freebird rules.
Mm-hmm. But then again, what they've meant to the WWE tag division, we wouldn't have, like, for example, say the Usos on this list if there was no New Day.
Yeah. And your brother said something about them. I don't remember what he said offhand, but
yeah. Check the Discord.
yeah, oh, there you go. But I feel like they're an important team, and they're definitely not bad. They're certainly
Yeah.
not a bad team. I do think though that they're a bit overrated in the sense that the tag division in WWE for that entire period didn't have much.
It was just them and the Usos.
Right. So it's not to take away from them. They're on my list proper.
Yeah.
They were my 9th team and his. But I just think that they get a little bit overrated in a sense that just because there was nobody else. So it's like, who else do you watch, right?
Yeah.
Does
So
that make sense? Like,
no, it makes complete sense. Absolute complete sense. I just find the gimmick with Xavier Woods at one point got a little stale with the trombone.
the tromboner guy.
Yeah, the tromboner guy. So with that, we're gonna move into, where are we at? We are at number 7, which is the Undisputed Era. I was the only one who didn't vote for them, but Fab voted them really high on his list. I think they were his number 4.
Yeah, like for me already, Red Dragon was on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Before I even thought about just making it
But for me,
Undisputed.
Red Dragon to me was Red Dragon from ROH, and that was before that 5-year span.
And that's fair, but I think from what I saw of them as a team together, they were one of the best teams in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And you factor in that they had Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. I mean, he wasn't really part of the tags, but
yeah,
it's a pretty strong group, and they were they carried NXT for a while.
Yeah, at least for a year.
So, and I think in the AEW, they also were very successful. Mind you, they didn't win any titles, but
yeah. And now Bobby Fish is asking, where's the Lion Impact?
yeah, Bobby Fish needs to be signed back, and they need to put them back together.
Yeah, but O'Reilly's still hurt, isn't he?
He's just going to come back soon, apparently.
Okay. That's a guy who we didn't. We're going into our number 6, which is the Lucha Brothers. We all, except my brother Fab. Fab voted them a little lower, but you and I kind of voted them in the middle.
It's undeniable what they've done. They're
Yeah.
still arguably working today as good as any of those teams above them. Now, the fact that the Briscoes don't
A
exist
team anymore. Yeah.
I think that the Lucha Brothers are definitely a top 5 team.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Lucha Brothers also, like, what they've done, like even before more than 5 years, like they put that Lucha Underground on the map. If it wasn't for them, there wouldn't be a Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
So I think what they've done for bringing, I guess, lucha style wrestling to the forefront once again after it's been lacking for so many years. I think,
and I think they will retire as one of the greatest tag teams of all time, and Ray Fenix will retire as one of the better wrestlers to ever have wrestled.
I think so. They still got a lot of years left on them if they can stay healthy. So we're entering the top 5. Number 5, all of us voted them pretty high, is the Motor City Machine Guns.
Undeniable.
Yeah. I mean, they are one of the best. The reason why probably they're not a little higher is because they did have a few solo runs for a while.
There was a gap period.
Yeah. Or else they probably, like, if you could see, they're like my number 3 all time.
Yeah. And for me, I think they were 5th.
Yeah.
Or
Exactly.
4th.
Yeah. 5th. If Fabs was 6th, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So you see, we're doing things.
Yes. We're doing math in our head. So,
but yeah,
I mean, no denial, and we're actually going to get to see them in a week and a half,
which I'm very excited for.
the Don Cola Arena, where we're watching. We're going to Impact's Final Resolution here in Toronto on December 9th, just for pretense there as well. The arena where we're seeing is a very small, intimate arena, and like we're gonna have good views of the entire action.
Oh yeah, I don't think you can get a bad seat at an Impact show. I'm just gonna be honest.
Yeah. So we're gonna move into arguably probably the greatest WWE tag team of the last 5 years, the Usos.
Yeah, arguably one of the best teams they've ever had in WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so as you can see, there is a total score tie.
Yes.
Between the Usos and the Young Bucks, and I'll explain that now.
Yes.
The reason that the Young Bucks are ahead of the Usos is because Fab gave them a first place vote, which trumps all the other votes for the Usos.
Because if you look, it's like, look how close the Usos are.
Yeah.
Across the board.
3 for me, 3 for Fab, and 4 for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, arguably what they meant, like, even last year before it got stale, that Bloodline storyline was one of the greatest in WWE.
Yeah, they're essentially the same tag team anyways, because they're just Super Kick Party, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, good. The Usos are a fantastic team. They went on a lot of really good runs.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see them get out of WWE and get into.
I want to see a proper Usos FTR, because the jokey gimmick that we got with FTR, the Usos in WWE, means nothing.
I think they would do really well in Japan. And I think in their older years, like, should these contracts expire, I think they'll be like in their late 30s.
Yeah.
They should go, should leave WWE and go around the world and
do a run in New Japan.
And then come back.
And come back as a Legends and go into the Hall of Fame.
They don't even need to sign anywhere. They've made so much money. Go on the independent scene. Go wrestle everywhere and just...
Kind of like what the Hardys did.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, we touched upon that as well. The Young Bucks, that's our number 3, only because Fab gave it that first place vote. So they are legit the number 3 tag team. With that, the Briscoes and FTR. Number 2 and number 1. This you really can't argue.
And you know what? It's pretty close too, because I voted FTR first, you voted them second, and then you voted the Briscoes first, and I voted them second.
Yeah.
Your brother has FTR second.
Yeah.
And he said, I believe his reasoning was he just didn't get to see the Briscoes enough.
Yeah. He doesn't partake in as much wrestling as we do. The boy's got a family, he's got 2 kids,
Yeah, he also doesn't watch Impact.
That's true too.
and they were there for over a year.
Yeah, and he doesn't watch Ring of Honor or anything. So,
But I think the Briscoes are fantastic. They're one of the greatest teams of all time, let alone the
mm-hmm.
last 5 years.
R.I.P.J.
Genuinely, the top two teams there, I would say, are probably in the top five all-time greatest teams of all time, of
I
all
would
time
think
teams.
so.
The teams of all time, that all-time teams.
I would say the top 5 in this group are part of the top 25 all time.
For sure. Definitely, I agree 100%. Briscoe's won 11-time Ring of
Yeah,
Honor
Ring of Honor
champions.
champions. Yeah,
They won the Impact Championship. I would have loved to see them win an AEW championship. I believe they won a New Japan
yeah.
championship.
They've won New Japan Tag.
They are
Yeah,
really good.
legendary. Yeah, and
Their series with FTR is arguably the best
the
tag team
greatest. Yeah,
series that's ever
that was
happened.
voted our greatest tag match of last year.
Yeah, and I would say that trio of matches is probably the best trio of tag team matches ever. Like the
I
best
would say it's
three
the
series
greatest
of three.
trilogy. Yeah,
Yeah, the best
greatest
trilogy. There
trilogy
you
of
go.
matches for sure, for sure, for sure. My reasoning behind FTR and the Briscoes, even though it was the last 5 years, I say the longevity of the Briscoes.
That's fair. For me, the thing with FTR is I see there's no gimmick. It's just
We're good
wrestling.
wrestlers and we're going to beat you.
They can talk, they can play their characters well. They
Mm-hmm.
can wrestle in the ring. They're willing to do anything. They've wrestled all over the world. They've won multiple championships. I think just in a
Yeah.
kayfabe sense, they have to be number one for me. But in like a regular sense, it's the Briscoes are such a heavy duty gimmick, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like overbearing at times where it's like FTR is just two guys. It's
Yeah.
just two guys
Two guys
wrestling.
that want to fight.
And
But I mean, it's even their intro is legendary when you hear "Reach for the Sky," and it's like,
it is, but
yeah,
I think FTR's song is really good too, especially
their
since it's
current
Midnight
one.
Express.
Yes, their current one. Yes, they're pulling
And
a
it's just
WCW.
it I'm not going to argue
Yeah,
between these two. It just is what it is.
yeah. I saw something special in FTR who they didn't even make our honorable mention list. Was way back. I think it was 2017. I went to NXT Takeover Toronto, and that was FTR was the NXT Tag Champions at the time, and DIY was facing them for the belts.
So, and this is a thing. Me and your brother discussed this. That's why I did bring it to your attention and ask questions about what we can do. Because we both had DIY in a position where it's like, can they make the list? Because I want to put them, but can they? And then we went back and we looked through a bunch, and they didn't even wrestle together in the last 5 years outside of like a 4-month period.
Yeah, because
So
somebody was always hurt.
yeah. So
They're
it was
finally starting to come back together now.
yeah. So that's mainly why. But they probably would have made my list.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's why though. I mean, come on, that top five is just good.
Yeah. Greatest of all time, these 5, for sure.
So do you want to talk about the 4 other teams that got voted but just didn't make
Yep.
the list?
So we'll start from the bottom. The only one that voted for Kenny and Hangman was Fab, who was his last place honorable mention. So there were three teams tied at 0.5. So Swerve in Our Glory, he kind of cheated a little bit and put them both in a tie.
But he gave me a reasoning for it.
And what was the reasoning?
He said that he really wanted them to be on his list, but
Okay.
he doesn't think that they wrestled enough together to be on the list proper. But he thinks that in the time period when they were together, they were so dominant and so good together that they had to be mentioned.
Okay. Same thing with Swerve in Our Glory.
I meant for both of them. That was the thing.
So your bottom honorable mention was Roppongi 3K.
Well, I still think they should have made the list. I'm so surprised you didn't pick them. I mean, they probably wouldn't have made it anyways unless you had it really high up. But I think Sho and Yo together were fantastic. They won 5 junior heavyweight champions, junior tag. Sorry, they won, I think, 3 back-to-back tag leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, you're not gonna not be on my list.
No. And my honorable mention, my lowest honorable mention was on the main list, which was Gorillas of Destiny. Your lowest honorable mention, second lowest was ABC, and Fabs was also Gorillas of Destiny. So that was on the main list. So the only one that's missing is mine, which I voted for the Street Profits.
And what did you give them?
I gave him the lowest on the number, basically 11th place.
So me and Fab both had the Street Profits just off of our list. And originally, so I'll tell you this story. So I had them at, I think, 7th. And then I remember I was like, well, the New Day was better. So I knocked them down to 8th.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, Aussie Open. I forgot about Aussie Open. So I knocked it down to 9th. Then I was like, and I kept that process just happened until they ended up completely off my list. Because
Yeah.
when I went through it, they are really good, but they've never won anything.
No, they haven't, but they've had a fantastic series of matches with the Usos.
Absolutely, and I think that tag match was probably the second best tag match last year. That I don't know
It
if it was
was.
Clash,
It was Clash at the Castle, I believe. Yeah.
and it was fantastic. But then the follow up match was dog doo doo. It
Yeah.
seemed like the Street Profit wrestlers, I can't
It was
remember their
Extreme
names.
Rules. It was Money in the
Yeah,
Bank, then Extreme Rules.
they
Yeah.
didn't even want to be there.
Yeah.
They looked like they didn't even care about the match. It was just like whatever. The
Because
Usos
they
just
because they knew they weren't going to win at that point. They knew the
yeah
Usos were just like, when there's no will, I guess, do you really want to? It's like we were talking about in the last video with Moxley. When Moxley doesn't want to be part of something, you could see he sandbags because there's no motivation. You know what I mean? And with the Street Profits, there was no motivation. And now I think being partnered together with Bobby Lashley, I think it's giving him a new lease on life. And maybe, we could see them with a tag team. They need to split the belts. That's one thing that's lacking, is they need
I'm
to and create two separate tag divisions.
let me see.
But like we were saying, we're going back to, we were saying about DIY as well. The reason why they didn't make the list is because they just didn't perform enough over the last 5
Yeah,
years.
and the Street Profits didn't win anything. So I think, to
Yeah,
me, as good as they're, that's got to knock you down, which I had two other ones I just want to talk about.
sure.
So the Kingdom was very close to making my list as well. But then
Mm-hmm.
in that period of the last 5 years, they got separated in storyline
Yeah.
in WWE by WWE because the other guy got fired, right? Well, didn't they only keep one guy?
No, Bennett was in WWE and Taven went to Impact.
There you go. And then when they both came together, they were like put in a feud against each other on,
Yeah,
was it on Impact? Yeah.
it was on Impact. Yeah.
And then they're together again. So I couldn't count that. And then I also had Axes.
Mm-hmm.
They did wrestle a bit in the first 2 years of the 5 years, and then they were separated throughout the whole COVID era.
Yeah.
And they're a great tag team, but it just seemed like too obscure in a sense to really put it on the
Yeah.
list, even though I think they deserve it, and I think you would kind of agree too.
Yeah, absolutely. I would. Would a group I want to mention is the Righteous, only because they have the best theme song.
Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
You
I
know,
mean,
they may
Butcher
not be
and the
the
Blade are really good too.
yes, but again, have they won anything?
No, the Street Profits are better than Butcher and the Blade. Sorry, Butcher and the Blade.
Yeah.
Um,
But anyway, that's the list, guys. Is there any tag team on this list that you think we may have missed? Would you put FTR in first place? Who on this list would you put? Join the discussion in the comments below. Let us know what you think and what your thoughts. So with that out of the way, guys, thanks again for joining us on this special episode of, wrestling talk, or whatever you want to call it.
ranking things.
Ranking things, not exactly a tier list, but almost a tier list. We could have done a tier list.
Ooh, we will do a tier list.
Maybe we will do a tier list. So maybe stay tuned for that. So with that out of the way, guys, thanks again for joining us. And in the words of Kenny Omega, goodbye and good night.